What's going on, everybody? I got one today that hopefully might help out a few people. It is what normally would be considered a really big, in-depth, pain-in-the-ass kind of job. There's a way to do it that is a fraction of the time, save you guys a lot of money that way. I know the dealer time on it is going to be like hours and hours, just because of what they tell you have to do that you don't actually have to do. But basically, this one customer's got a 2012 Nissan Frontier that he's had a little bit of an AC leak. We had replaced some O-rings before, and he was still losing a little bit, so kind of poked around a little bit more, and after having it run for a bit with some dye in the system, was able to find out where this leak is still coming from. So I'm going to show you guys what we found and what we're going to do to replace it without having to do any sorts of crazy bullshit, removing and replacing and all sorts of awfulness. It's actually not that bad of a job at all. So let's get into it. All right, so this is under the hood. Like I said, it's a 2012 Nissan Frontier. Charged the system up with some dye. Still has a kind of a consistently, not heavy leak. I mean, there's still a little bit in the system, but it's enough of a leak that they noticed. Yeah, it's not cooling like it should, and especially lately, it's been 90 degrees and humid as hell, and so sometimes that's the reason why. But in this case, we checked, and for a system that's supposed to hold about 1.5 pounds, really only had about about a half a pound. But after charging it and cleaning down the area that I found, we can see once again under the black light, UV light, you can see it right around there. So we've replaced O-rings on these lines before. At this point, just to play it safe, it's not overly expensive to get an expansion valve. They're like $40-50. They do fail on these, especially on something that's over 10 years old. It's definitely a good idea at this point, I think, to just replace the valve, that expansion valve, which is what is on the other side of that plate. You can see right in the center, there's one 10-millimeter bolt, and this little bracket holding the lines comes off, and the lines just pull out of it, and then there should be like 1 or 2 bolts holding it into the evaporator, which is obviously tucked up underneath the dash and is a real mother to get. All right, so first things first here, remove the one bolt down in the center there. You can see that whole 110-millimeter headed bolt. This bracket gets loose. You can just kind of pull it back here. That's out of the way. And now these 2 lines right here, just pull straight out. A little residual vacuum in there. Obviously, this system has been emptied already. Anytime you're doing AC stuff, gotta empty the system. This line is a larger diameter line also. Pull straight out there. And I mean, you can see if you look here, I'll take this light out of the equation here, so it's a little bit, now it might be a little tough to see with the light, but when I put the black light over, you can kind of see all that glowing, radioactive looking dye. That's where our dye is coming through the system, through the oil, and in this case leaking out. So like I said, there is a couple of bolts that we have to take out down in the middle here. Just kind of zoom in on that for you. Those guys right there. I believe there is there 2 of them? Yeah, it looks like it. So yeah, we'll get those 2 guys out of there and pop this valve out. Now, so far, it doesn't look like I have to move, either one of these heater hoses out of the way. When you undo the large line, I just like to pull it kind of back so it's, you know, up out of the way here, and we'll replace the O-ring on that. Again, anytime you've got it open, it's a good idea to. The two bolts there, they're going to be a T27 Torx. Stupid size, but it is what it is. So we'll take those two bolts out, and then I will show you, you know, the next step in getting this valve out. According to Nissan, this is a 7.5-hour job, because they want you to pull the whole evaporator out and basically switch this out from the inside of the vehicle. We are not going to do that because this can be replaced from the firewall without removing any of that stuff. Fraction of the time to get this done. So we'll pop these bolts out, and I'll show you what I do to then get the valve itself out. And there's the two bolts. They are the same bolt, very small bolt, diameter wise. Like I said, T27 Torx, so be very careful that you don't strip those out. But once you get them both out, what I like to do now, see if I can get this at a good angle where I can do it and you guys can see it, right? So I will leave one of the bolts in, and basically just what you want to do is put it in a couple of threads, and then get this line a little bit more out of the way so we can work here. But essentially what you need to do is keep one of these two bolts a couple of threads in so that it's still holding in to the valve itself. It does thread into the valve directly. And then you're going to use that bolt as kind of like your leverage. So what I do is, you know, screw it in just a couple of threads so it's still attached, so that way you can't pull the whole bolt out once it's undone. And you're basically going to just start kind of using that bolt to, you know, wiggle this valve, and you wiggle it, you know, back and forth until it pops free of the back. The back of it at this point is just being held, you know, there's two O-rings on the back, and those attached to the evaporator. So on this, you just have to kind of, you know, work it. Like I said, I usually like to grab, you know, onto that bolt there and kind of work it up and down and side to side and try to free it up until you can pull that valve off. Because once you go to reinstall it, you just got to put a couple new O-rings on, you push it into place, install those two bolts back, and you're good to go. So, like I said, it's a little bit tight, so I'm going to use both my hands for this. So I'm going to put this down while I do that, and then show you once I get it off what that's going to look like. But that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do to get this off. There's no pulling the dash for 7.5 hours and doing all that horse shit. None of that. That's a fucked up, you know, thing that they haven't, you know, figured out to do it like this, but is what it is. We can do it a lot quicker than that. All right, with a little persuasion, this is the old valve that came out. So, like I said, you have top and a bottom, going to be an O-ring on the back as well as on the lines that go into the front. You got the two bolts here, and then the one that secures the line in the center here that threads into it. What I did too, and you can do if it's really being kind of stubborn, this one was being sort of stubborn coming out, so you know, kind of worked it back and forth. I actually took a radiator pick, just a long angled pick like this, and sent it in and kind of, you know, hooked it on one of these bars that runs vertical, just to kind of give me something to grab and pop it out. So you know, that's out. So now we can wait for the new one to get here. But so you can see kind of down in that valley where it sits, you can see the little you know, nub where the new, let's see if I can get you in there. So there is currently an old, I don't know if you can see it, but there is an old O-ring on those. So make sure you switch those out, get yourself a new one, and as well as the, you know, the side that these lines are going on, you want to replace those as well. Just should replace all 4 O-rings on it when you do it. That way you don't have to do it again. But we'll wait for the new part, and then we should be able to pop this back in. And like I said, I mean, that's a hell of a lot less time, you know, than doing it the way that the book says. And just to kind of give you guys an idea, this is what they're saying to do to replace the expansion valve on this 2012 Frontier. Discharge the refrigerant, obviously we did that. Remove the heater and cooling unit assembly. Remove the heater core and evaporator pipes grommet. Remove the expansion valve. Yep, so we're not doing that. The expansion valve, they have the factory part, is about 43 bucks. Replacing it does not include, doing the recovering and recharging of the AC, but it is still booked out at a solid 7.5 hours. So we are going to do it a hell of a lot faster than that. I would say removing it might take, I don't know, half hour, if it's really stuck and giving you some shit, but nothing too crazy to get that out of there. All right, so we got the new valve here, we got the old valve here, matching them up, make sure everything looks the same, looks right, which they do, looks good. And this one was nice too, came with all new O-rings for it. New ones for the back side, and then these are for the two lines that are up front. So you just match them up size for what comes off of the old one, which is nice. Sometimes these things don't come with new seals, so that's a nice little benefit. I went with an aftermarket one just because I needed something today. Nissan does not have any in stock, and it was going to take a week to get them.
Now it is a little bit tricky to show you guys, but on those two lines there, we need to get the new O-rings on that, so I'll probably put the camera down for that so I can do it, just because it is a little tight in here. We'll get those two on there, we'll push that new valve on, and then reinstall those two bolts. And then same thing, we will put the new O-rings on these lines. The other one's down there, kind of hanging out down there. And then pop those in, charge up the system, and check for leaks. All right, so new valves installed. Just snug those bolts down. You don't have to kill them. They're not big bolts, so just until they get nice, tight, and snug, should be good to go. Make sure you get it on there and just kind of push it on nice and straight so you don't, crush or bend an O-ring seal. I usually like to put a little silicone spray or some kind of oil or something on them, just so they go on a little bit easier. But now that that's bolted back in, just gonna hook these lines back into it. Same thing. Probably put a little spray on the O-rings on this side as well. Pop them in. Should be good to go after that.
All right, so new valves in. Got everything tightened up. I got it on the machine right now running. We're just holding vacuum. Still got about 10 minutes to go on that, but looks pretty solid. If you can kind of see there, seems like it's holding pretty steady, so that's a good sign. Like I said, we'll charge it up. Sorry, it's fucking hot in here, humid as shit up here in New England lately. I guess the whole country, apparently. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's a hell of a lot better than pulling the dash out and pulling out, the whole, heating assembly there and doing it from the inside. I have no idea why they say you have to do that. There's a lot of other vehicles that are the same way, like Subarus in particular. I do a lot of expansion valves on Subarus because they tend to leak a lot. Same thing, they usually tell you gotta go up inside the dash and do it, and that's just not true. So if you do come across an expansion valve on a Nissan, like this is a Frontier, but I think it's probably about the same for a lot of them, Altimas and stuff like that. Subarus, like I said, are another one where they're gonna tell you have to do it like from the inside, and you absolutely don't. So instead of paying probably over $1,000 easy at the dealership for something like this is something that is going to save you a lot of money if you do it this way. I do it this way for customers because, like, you know, aside from the fact that they don't want to pay that much money, like I don't want to go up under the dash and spend a whole day pulling shit out and putting stuff back in and like fuck that, dude. Nobody's got time for that shit. So this is a much better fix for everybody involved, myself included. So we'll get it charged up. We'll get this guy going. Hopefully that's the end of the road for this fix. If you guys like it, let me know. If you don't, you can still let me know, I guess. I don't really care, though. Like, comment, give me some questions, whatever. You know, whatever you got. I'll try to keep some good repairs coming for you, you know? Till next time, I guess.